Hello, everyone. Uh, my name's Mike Warren. I'm one of the ICPC trainers. I'm also a full-time celebrant, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today to be able to hold a meeting with some very special ICPC trainers in front of me. So that's really good. So I'd like to introduce each in turn. So why don't you kick off, Max?
Hi, my name is Maxine. I am a professional celebrant. I do that as a part time role. And I am delighted to be part of the team at the International College of Professional Celebrants, where we offer training up in the beautiful High Trent House in Yorkshire. So I've just been up
And
there.
I'm
It's
Julie
brilliant.
Basaker. I am the Operations Director for ICPC, as we call it, the International College of Professional Celebrants. And I'm also a part-time celebrant, so I'm one very busy person.
And if you weren't busy, Julie, you'd get bored. I'm Stuart Morris, and I'm a full-time celebrant, and I also am the founder of the International College of Professional Celebrants. So, as these three are fond of saying, it's all my fault.
That's always
No, it's a pleasure, an absolute pleasure, Stuart. You know it is. Well, we've got together today to talk about different things. It sort of follows on from maybe your journey to you may have looked at a previous podcast, Should I Become a Celebrant? Which is really interesting to sort of hear all different people's perspectives. You may have gone online and chosen the quiz. And at the end of that, you've got to a point where you thought, I'm not really sure whether celebrancy is for me. And it's absolutely vital that you identify that at the early stage because you don't want to invest in loads of training and then realize actually celebrancy isn't for you. But it's important to find out maybe, identify why that's the case. If it's not the right career path for you, let's decide that now. And let's think about why a celebrancy training provider like ourselves would be discouraging maybe people from going into celebrancy. Well, we do a lot of encouraging, don't we? But we also have to recognize that some people, it's just not the right career path for them. They may not have the skills, they may not have the inclination, they may not have the finances, it just may be wrong for them. And it might be good for us to discuss today as we drink just over coffee some of those things that might be the things that could prevent people going down that particular route. I think the key thing here is that you really do have to want to be an, a celebrant, and it's all about wanting to develop that those skills as well. Let's start off first of all. One thing I've got in front of me is about not, I've got a few notes here, and it's about not really being a people person. I wondered if we can just talk about sort of why do you have to be a people person as a celebrant? What's the issue there? So maybe, Julie, I wondered if you could
Yes,
kick
of
off for
course.
us
And I
today.
think the things that you've just even brushed upon are really important. That doing your research and really giving a lot of consideration to if celebrancy is the right role for you is absolutely to be encouraged. And we encourage all our delegates who come and train with us. We encourage to do that, do their research, have a really good think about if it's the right role for them. Just going a little bit off your question, but I'll come back to it, is that when I trained to become a teacher, um, I assumed that everybody who was learning how to be a teacher would have very, very similar attributes or essential qualities. And yet I know three people in my
Hmm.
year who once qualified and got a job, almost immediately gave it up because it wasn't right for them. They didn't like it. So we encourage people to really have a very good idea of what the job entails first before you commit to training and spending some money on setting up a new business. The people part is probably the core. So the heart of the role is about dealing with people at the most important times in their lives. So it could be at the naming of their baby, it could be at their wedding or their vow renewal, or it could be when they're saying a farewell to someone at a funeral. Each of those cases, it's important that you like people and that you're curious and you want to know their story, because it's up to the celebrant to tell that life story or to tell that love story. If you're not a people person and you're not curious about people and what makes them tick, you're at a disadvantage immediately, because the caring part, the wanting to know, to fulfill all the details and write creatively about that person or people is very, very important.
That's really important actually, because people buy into you. They buy into you and what you stand for, because you are self-employed as a celebrant most of the time, and you are offering your services, but you're offering yourself, and people are looking at you and they buy into who you are. So it's really important, isn't it, that you are somebody who is has integrity, somebody who's professional, but there's other skills that and attributes that people look for that actually help people link up with you and connect with you as a celebrant. Because after all, they're going to be sharing a major part of their life, whether it's their plans for a wedding or maybe it is their a life of a loved one. And you are a stranger and you need to be a people person and link up with them quickly. So I wondered, Maxine, whether there's any particular skills that you need in terms of engagement with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Top of the tree every single time is listening. You have to be able to listen. Most importantly, you have to be able to hear, and there's a really big difference with that. So, you've got to. We all talk about things, and people will be talking to us, and all of a sudden our mind disappears off, and we go, "Oh, I forgot to add something to my shopping list or whatever." You have to really listen, and you have to. So, if you find that difficult, there are ways around it, and we can all practice it. But it's really something to think about. The second bit is hearing. So, what are they saying? What does that mean? And what does that mean? What do you have to do about it? What is their, do they need help? Is it something they've said particularly about the ceremony? So you've really got to be able to interpret that. So it does mean that you have to be a people person, because if you're not naturally curious, as Julie said, and you don't find yourself being that type of person, you've really got to question whether or not when you go and see a family or a couple, or any other person who'd be wanting a service or a ceremony, if that's really for you. So you can practice it, and start to pay attention when people are talking to you and you're having that conversation. For example, are you really listening to them, or are you just waiting for a space to answer? So it's really, you can start to think about it, but it's very important that you do.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Maxine. That's brilliant. How about I was thinking, Stuart, if you don't mind, some people do say, well, I don't have enough money, it's not the best time sort of thing. So I wondered if it's a big thing, moving careers, starting something new, and if people just don't have that investment at that stage in their career, what would your advice be?
Really simple, and it may sound a little bit harsh, but don't do it.
Right.
I think it's fundamental to good money management is understanding what you've got and what you can afford. And for people who are saying, I really want to do this, but I haven't got the money, please don't get yourself into financial difficulty to do this. It would be irresponsible of us
Yes.
to say, yes, give us your money, it'll be fine. It would be irresponsible for anybody to do that in any career in any way. And I'm not going to say, yes, it's fine, you'll make lots of money being a celebrant, you might not. And so only go down this road, only spend this money if it's something you've saved up for and can afford to do. Because if it isn't, and you end up it taking 2 or 3 months more than you thought it was going to get your business off the ground, or you get cracking and actually you discover it's not for you, then that puts you into financial difficulty. And I don't want to be part of a process that puts you into financial difficulty. So I think that's a kind of a brutal but very honest answer, is if you're struggling about it, save up for longer, do the course next year instead of this year, whatever it is, but do not put yourself into financial difficulty to change your career in any direction.
Thank you, Stuart. So it's not just I was just thinking what you were saying there, that actually it's not just about not having enough money for training, but also it's your life as well and your career. And it's about also when you trained, do you have enough money to be able to live day to day? And it's a decision that you make on your own sometimes, and sometimes with your partner and your family. And it's a big life-changing thing. So you need everyone around you, don't you?
Yeah,
So
and in a way,
think,
we're trying to put you off, because when you come, we want you to be sure that you're in the right place.
yes, absolutely. And doing that is really important, isn't it? Sort of making sure that you've thought through all of those steps about financial management as well, making sure that it's the right thing for you to do. And this is what this podcast is about, just making sure that this is the right step for you. I mean, we are a training provider of celebrancy, and it's an unusual podcast to do. Why shouldn't you become a celebrant? I mean, it's unusual. However, it's important to actually weigh up those skills, and if
Mike, if
you're
you
at the
don't mind
right
me,
time in your life.
I was just going to,
But
no,
there's other,
sorry to interrupt.
yeah,
I
sorry,
just felt it
Julie.
was really important to just link with what you were just saying about it seems a strange message. But I think that we are not a celebrant making factory. We actually want quality people with the right essential qualities coming in to be trained, because they're going to be wearing our badges. They're going out into the world with an ICPC badge on. So we want to train the best people to be the best celebrants and to work within the ICPC family. That means if we have to put some people off because it's not quite a right fit, thanks Maxine, not quite right, the right fit, then that's better that we do that. It's better for the profession generally, it's better for us as ICPC, and it's better for the individual celebrants who come in, who will then be working alongside people who have the same qualities as they do. And the other thing I wanted to say, and I'm sorry if I'm hogging, is that the course costs
No,
£2,725 if you come on the residential, includes everything, or every part of it is inclusive. That's actually not a lot of money to set up a business. Okay, there'll be things like a website you might want to invest in, or there'll be some marketing materials. But really, even if you said it's £3,000, that's a very small amount to set up a business. So that's actually a big plus.
mm,
But as you have rightly said, Stuart, it's not just about the initial amount, it's about waiting for that business to start creating the money. And so therefore it has to be thought about for, 6 months, probably, I would say. Think, how am I going to survive for 6 months? This is my first outlay. Can I then manage with a smaller income for 6 months? And if the answer is no, I can't, that also probably excludes you from training, because you need to make sure that you can survive. So some really good points, I think, from Stuart and Mike there.
I think there's
We
another.
can spread the cost of training, though, can't we?
Yeah,
as well,
you can.
which
That does
we
sometimes
make
spread
it
it
more
over 6
accessible,
months.
actually, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I think also there's an element which some people come into celebrancy just full of themselves, and actually, if you are sitting there full of self doubt, can I do this? Can I serve families? Can I? then you're probably in a better position. You're probably going to make a better celebrant than somebody who says, "Of course I can do this. This is not a problem." That arrogance and that lack of self-awareness probably means that you're not a very empathetic person. And I know there are going to be people who are insulted by me saying that, and that's fine. Please don't buy our product. But if you're sitting there at home going, "I want to do this, but I'm not sure that I've got the skills, or I'm not sure that I'm," then you probably are the right person, because you're questioning, you're seeking to be a better celebrant, a better human being. You're not coming with that sort of narcissistic arrogance. And I'm, as you probably guessed, not afraid of upsetting people. If you're upset by what I've just said, you're probably not the right kind of person to become a celebrant. And if you're sitting there going, "No, that's me," then you probably, in terms of self-doubt, then you probably are the right kind of person to become a celebrant.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah,
you,
we all
Stuart.
struggle with self-doubt all day long.
Yes.
Can I do this? Can I do it well?
I think some of those self-doubt, they come from going into celebrancy, but thinking particularly on the speaking side, the public speaking side. That is a worry for people, and they sometimes find that very difficult to actually move from, and will I get an opportunity to develop this? I was just thinking, Max, from the course side, what opportunities are there to develop that particular skill of being able to speak out?
You get an awful lot of practice. We structure the course in a way where we have thought about it, and we've thought about your journey throughout the week. And the first couple of days, there's a lot of information going on. But again, it's the foundations and the building blocks. It's have I got the tools and the methodologies and the approach? Because you need all of those before you even start to think about getting on your feet. So once we've done that, and by the end of day 2, sometimes people are a little bit cross-eyed because there is a little bit of information, but by that time they're raring to get onto their feet. So there are lots of opportunities, and it's a very safe environment. It's an environment where people want to give you positive feedback, or sometimes negative feedback, but in a way that helps you to develop. It's a very kind environment, so nobody's going to be laughing if you stumbled over a word or you've missed a piece, because we give you tips and techniques. So once we've seen what you need, we can feed back to you and say, "Well, I noticed this happened, and this is going to help you out." So, for example, how you annotate your scripts, how you might put difficult words in bold when you pause, are some practical examples of what you can do to make yourself a better public speaker. Julie's from a theatrical background. We have lots of fun, don't we, Julie, with warm-ups, where we get a little bit silly, but looking after your voice is a really, really important part. We'll talk about how you deal with nerves, and then we'll give you opportunities to practice. So it starts in little short bits throughout the week, and you build up to the end of the week to deliver your eulogy. And it is such a rewarding thing for the trainers to see, because we've seen people coming in from being nervous, especially around public speaking, to getting up there on their lectern, standing, looking confident, and delivering a beautiful eulogy. So we will take you on that journey,
I'm
with
reminded
lots
immediately
and lots of support.
of somebody who
That's
was very
amazing.
worried about public speaking because they had a stutter, and this was on a recent course. And she, at the end of the week, she stood up and confidently delivered her ceremony, her eulogy, without a single problem, not a stammer, not a stutter. And she got a big round of applause because she'd learned ways of doing it, of techniques that meant that she didn't worry about it at all. So that was a great story.
That's brilliant.
That's really good. So there's a lot to look forward to on our ICPC course that we run. But going back to the original question about some of those things that you might be worried about or why you shouldn't go into celebrancy. Um, some people come into celebrancy. I've met one or two that want to come in, and there's no passion there at all for the actual role, and all they want to do is that they want to make money. So I wonder, Julie, what would you say about to people like that? Is it
Does
a
such a
get
thing
rich
exist
quick
anywhere,
scheme
Mike?
here?
That's what I want to know. Um, Not at all. I think if your prime motivation is to make money quickly, this maybe isn't quite the right role for you. I think talking to the delegates who come and train with us, they share a passion for people and for wanting to make a difference in people's lives. So I think that's far more of an element than the get rich quick. I'm going to make loads of money. Saying that,
Yeah.
we also have examples people who we have trained who have gone out hell for leather, if you like, and have built their business up extraordinarily quickly and are making very good money and have got a name for themselves and are doing very well. Thank you very much. I would say more people run it alongside other jobs, run it part-time, have come to it in later life, so don't depend on that money and want to do it at their own pace. So I think with whatever journey you are on in those examples, celebrancy can fit in with your lifestyle. But I think the one it won't fit in is the get rich quick.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Julie. That's great. So one thing in our week that we train with or train to is about those difficult deaths, difficult subject. But some people don't want to go into celebrancy purely on that reason. They don't want to talk about death, and they may find it just too challenging, maybe because of personal experience. Although obviously on our course that we provide, we are covering all ceremonies, weddings as well. But if people don't want to talk about death, is that a big stumbling block? Oh, who would like to answer that?
Shall I pick that one up?
Yes, please.
I
Thank
think,
you.
and it's worth thinking about the whole of celebrancy in the rites of passage from baby namings, coming of age, engagement ceremonies, wedding ceremonies, vow renewals, and funerals. That if we look at that whole range of things that celebrants do, and all of the
Yes.
other opening businesses and all sorts of other ceremonies, there's plenty of space. And one of the fundamental tenets of ICPC is that we will teach you to do all ceremonies, which means that you will be better at the ones you specialize in because you understand the nature of the rites of passage within community life, but
Yeah.
also understanding how a good funeral works means actually you can do a better wedding and vice versa. For lots of us, though, when I made it my full-time job, I thought I was going to be all over weddings. And actually, I started feeling quite quickly I'm not enjoying weddings. I don't like doing lots of them, but discovered that I really enjoyed doing funerals. So my focus changed from weddings to funerals, and because I was trained to do both, I had that option. I think a really good example of why training to do both is better economically as well as making you a better celebrant is just during 2020. We knew celebrants who had 40 plus weddings booked, which would have been a really lucrative year, who were unable to do one because of the COVID lockdowns. Whereas if they'd also had a funerals business running alongside, there were plenty of funerals to be taken. And so looking at both enables you to mix and match. It enables you to balance your own preferences with financial needs. But I think also, it's perfectly acceptable to say, I don't want to do a particular kind of funeral or even just a one off. Funeral director phones you up, says, can you do a funeral next Thursday? And I'm planning to have a duvet day. And
Yeah.
I can just say, no, I can't. And I don't have to explain why. That I'm just going to sit cuddled up with my cat and my duvet and just enjoy having a really down day, you don't have to explain it to anybody. But we do often get people who said, I'm going to focus on weddings. They focused on weddings. And then one particular example I'm thinking of where the couple had a baby and they lost the baby. And they asked that celebrant to take the funeral for the baby. And that celebrant had always said, I couldn't do baby funerals. But because of the history, because of the relationship with that couple, said, you know what, I'm going to take that baby funeral. And they did. And it was excellent. And it was hard. And it was really difficult. And I don't think they'll ever do another baby funeral. But because they knew how, they were able to care for that family in a much more holistic way. So actually, celebrancy, we may say we don't want to do something, a particular kind of ceremony, but sometimes it throws you a curveball, and actually you do. You pick it up and you run with it, and you discover that you are good for it. It gives you the flexibility to do that.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Stuart. That's really important. So I was just thinking in the back of my mind, I know people that they burn the candle at both ends. Do you know, and you might get away with that in some things, or they're a real procrastinator and they will leave everything until the last minute. And does that does that really work within celebrancy?
No.
No. So, Julie,
Not that
do
you
you
can
think
leave things to the
what?
last
What do you
moment and
think?
procrastinate. I think it's
Well, sort of that I struggle with personal organization or something like that.
if
If someone
somebody said
said
that,
that,
yes,
what
if
would,
somebody said that to
are
me,
they
I think an
suited to,
amber flag would go
yeah,
up. Because as Maxine has talked about, and I think on
right.
other podcasts, the need to be organised when you are juggling funerals and wedding ceremonies and vow renewals, and the time that each of those takes, you have to be very organised. You have to keep good records. You have to know what stage you're at with each of the ceremony. During the summer months, when you have weddings every single weekend, well, that's really challenging, actually. Have I done that bit? Have I got that script done? Have I done the presentation script? I know Maxine uses Trello to organise herself. I couldn't quite get my head around it, but we all have to create a system where we can check where we're at. Are we on time with each thing that we have to do in order to be completely ready for the ceremony? If that's not your forte, if you really are all over the place and your desk, well, you've forgotten what your desk looks like because it's covered in stuff, then maybe you've either got to find a way of organizing yourself, or maybe this isn't the right role for you, because it is part of being self-employed and organized that you need to have those skills to be a successful celebrant, I would say.
Yeah, so having systems and being well organized is so important, quite a crucial part because it's your business, it's your celebrancy business. You need to know where things are. You need to be able to have a system for knowing when
Exactly.
things need to be done. But what happens if you're, yeah, but what happens if you're not reliable? I mean, you know, where does that stand, in terms of your reputation? Max, what do you think about that?
I think that your reputation is your business. There's a lot of businesses where you're only as good as your last gig, to be honest, and celebrancy is very, very much a case of that. And I think it is difficult. Especially if you're doing it part time and you're juggling more than one role. I know that I live with my Outlook calendar. Every single part of my day, I know what I'm doing, and it's really important because if imagine if you got to a wedding late or a funeral late, or you didn't plan in your travel time, or just we've been talking about mental health in another podcast, the amount of work because you've forgotten to do stuff and you're up at midnight finishing off a funeral. It's just not good. And there are lots of tools out there available, and you can do it. But you if you find that difficult, there are ways that you can approach that and make it easier. If you think it's a pain and a chore, and you're more of the type of person who's a bit laissez-faire, likes to see where their day leads them, and that's absolutely fine, because we're all very different. Then you really need to think about, have I got, I think, the discipline? Am I disciplined enough to manage my time in order to make sure that I provide the service to my couples and my families and my other clients, in order to do the job well without stressing myself out too much?
That's really helpful. Thank you very much, Maxine. So think carefully. I mean, some of those people might say, actually, I've got too much on my plate. Well, maybe that's the wrong time for you now to be able to do it, or you're just not organized enough. And maybe celebrancy isn't the right thing for you. Maybe the money is not in the right place and you're not quite ready for that commitment at the moment. Or maybe you struggle with death and talking about that and supporting families because of your challenges in life. And maybe you just feel that this is not the right thing. Think carefully about that. We don't want to discourage you from pursuing a celebrancy career, do we? Naturally, we want to encourage everybody, but we do want to encourage you to be in the right place at the right time with everything that you need in place so that it's a success for you. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Thank you. Thanks.